Hello my cutie patooties. Today I wanted to have a little bit of a chit chat around something that I've seen recently. There's been a lot of conversations around body types and the new body type trend that's coming in. The Kardashians losing weight, removing their butts, and that now it means that we're all going to go back to skinny. Then other people saying that skinny has never really left. And I think this has been around since maybe the beginning of times, and it's easy to fall into the spiral of why don't I look like that? Why do I look different? What's wrong with my body? But especially today, with the internet coming up with micro insecurities every 2 to 3 business weeks, like it's the new Zara collection, I think it's getting worse. So today I just wanted to have a little bit of a sit down and share my story of how I dealt with this during my teenage years and how eventually I learned about a few things that really opened my eyes and helped with my body image and my self-esteem by a lot. Maybe some of you already know about these things. Maybe some of you don't. If this helps even just one person, I think I'll be very happy. So starting from the beginning of times, and I know this is going to sound like a bit of a tangent, but I promise there's a point to this story. When I started using the internet, I was presented to a game called Stardoll. If some of you remember it, my cousin showed it to me when I was maybe 10 years old. Now I think it doesn't even really work that well, but until about 2015, it was pretty good and somewhat of a cult among young girls. I played that game since I was maybe 10 years old until I was 17, I think, on and off. So it spanned between when I was in middle school throughout high school. So if you don't know what Stardoll was, basically it was this game where you had your own avatar and then your profile was sort of your house and you could buy clothes in the Star Plaza. It was just really fun. The game kept evolving with the years, so it was really fun to be there from almost the beginning and then seeing the new features come on and on. So I could talk about this for days and days, but it's dead now, so there's no use in it. Basically, around this game there was a huge internet culture of blogs about the clothes in the game, because the game is mainly revolving around fashion. So the game would release collections of clothing in the shops in the game, which were inspired by real collections of clothing in real life. I put this as the single blame cause for my generation being a bunch of brand, me included. I had no business knowing how to name maybe 13 different Italian designers by the age of 12, but I digress. The point being that I also had a couple of blogs in this time. So there was this website at one point which was owned by Vogue called style.com. That website also doesn't exist anymore, but it was a Bible for anyone loving fashion. They would publish a catalog for runway shows, so they would post the photos of each of the looks on the runway. It was a really cool archive site. And because I had these blogs connected to Stardoll, I used style.com basically as a mecca for getting my real life photos of the looks. This made me really interested in fashion, and specifically high fashion, and specifically the catwalk and the runway model look. Bear in mind, during these years, America's Next Top Model was also a big thing. I suddenly became obsessed with the idea that if I was ever going to be a model, I would like to be a runway model, but alas, I'm 5'3", barely, so you know where those dreams went. So anyway, fast forward a few years. In 2018, my boyfriend decided to convince me that I should maybe start taking pictures of me and posting them on this new app called Instagram. Up until that point, I hated having my pictures taken. I don't think I have even 5 or 10 photos of me during my teenage years, but him kind of persuading me to have my pictures taken, to post them on Instagram, kind of got me out of that fear of having my pictures taken, and suddenly I was thinking, I'm going to be this fashion girly on Instagram. So then that meant I started following other fashion girlies and influencers and all that stuff, and then that got me reviving the years that I was obsessed with being a runway model into this new era of fashion influencers on the internet. But the thing is that the looks that did well on Instagram and Pinterest, and still do, is pretty much skinny, tall girls that look great in the clothes, almost similar to the runway model body type. So then, because I was having my pictures taken, I was looking at these other fashion influencers and then realizing that I kind of don't look the same that they do, even if I wear the same thing they're wearing. And then some thoughts started polluting my brain, like I look chunky and short, and my legs aren't thin enough, and I look like a sack of potatoes when I wear an oversized blazer. And then getting into this thought, which I think is where most women fall into at some point, which is to think, well, if I look chunky and short, maybe if I lose weight, I'll look tall and skinny. But spoiler alert, I was wrong. So then the turning point to this was when one time I met one of the fashion girlies that I knew from Instagram in real life. We agreed to meet in person, and on Instagram she looks tall and skinny, she looks good in everything she wears. She's Dutch, she's blonde, she got blue eyes, and I just thought this girl's going to come here looking all tall and gorgeous, and here I am like looking like a gremlin. But lo and behold, she gets there and she's the exact same height as me. And I was flabbergasted. Like, what is this reality? How can we be the same exact height and her body looks completely different to mine? This is not computing. She looks long. She's not even that overly skinny. So why don't I look the same? I thought I had been bamboozled. So then eventually I started learning about body types, and it pretty much changed my life. Now, this may not be breaking news for you because it's been around for maybe 2 or 3 years now on the internet, mainly related to fashion and what to wear and what looks good for your body, but learning about body types changed my complete perspective of my own body image and what I thought I knew about body proportions. You see, because ever since I was a little kid, I was very much into art and drawing. One of the first things you learn when you try to draw people is that there's very specific ratios and body proportions you need to adhere to for it to look realistic. Like the body needs to be 8 times the size of the head, or that legs need to be half the size of the body. What someone eventually failed to teach me is that these ratios and proportions are obviously not medically accurate. They're only for artful purposes. And the fact that I never pursued art more seriously is that I never learned that these ratios can be altered. Like, it's just a way of playing with proportion and how you want the drawing to look like. If you want someone to look very grand, or you want someone to just be in the background. So this is when I realized I had been betrayed by the Vitruvian man. Because in reality, in the real world, all people don't have the same body proportions and ratios, and that doesn't really make them less functional as humans. I thought that these ratios were a representation of reality. You need to draw people like this because these are the human proportions, but in fact, that's not true. Some people have shorter legs and long torsos. Some people have short torsos and longer legs. Some people are more or less symmetric, which is my case, which means their legs are not going to look very long, but also their torsos are not going to look very long. So overall, we just look average. And that's okay. So I used to think that all humans had the same skeletal structure, but then some of us were shorter and others were taller, and that was the main difference.
That is not correct.
The body type model that has become more popular in recent years is Kibi. Kibi identifies 13 body types, and the main foundation behind this is that our body type is based off of our bone structure and then on how and where our body stores fat. Here I try to compile overweight examples of this model where it's easier to see the differences in body fat allocation. The key here is that even if you gain weight, your body type doesn't change. So let's compare myself to my favorite model. This woman is stunning, iconic, legendary, certified queen. She's everything, and she's 5'11". I'm 5'3". If she was standing next to me, this is what the situation would look like. Now here's the kicker. Our measurements, as in our bust measurements and hip measurements, are identical, but she's almost 1 foot taller than me. So if you squish her JPEG in vertically, now we're twins, basically. But now she doesn't really look like what she looked like with her original height, because for the proportions to be the same, you would have to squish the JPEG in width as well. So then it's where I think we start to have these thoughts of, if I just lose weight, I'll narrow down, I'll be super slim. But you know what weight loss doesn't really do is cut bones or change the shape and placement or size of your bones. So even if I started thinking of losing weight to become more slender, look taller, all of those things, like I previously thought that's what was going to help me, realistically, no matter how much weight I lose, there's very little that will change in terms of my body type, because these bones are here to stay. So weight loss might remove some volume for some people if you have a lot of extra weight. But for someone who's already slender, it's just going to make the bones stand out a lot more. And that's the case with people who are very underweight that don't really look like they're underweight because maybe their bones are wide. So losing the weight just makes the bones stand out a lot more. And you still have the body type and shape that you've always had. You just have less fat on top of it. So for example, if I started to obsess over wanting to have a very slim waist, realistically, because my hip bone is quite high, comes up until here, and my rib cage ends about here, I only have this much space to have a waist. And I have organs here that need to do their thing. So my waist can't go inward much more. If I was taller or if my rib cage was narrower and I had more vertical space for my organs to rearrange themselves in a different way, then maybe my waist would be a different shape. But as is, unless I start literally removing bones, there's nothing I can do to change this shape. I don't know if I ever told the story here. I know I told the story about the chronic illness I have, but around the same time, I had to be put on some medication that had some effects on increasing my appetite and increasing my fluid retention. And I had to take that for well over a year. And during that time, my body changed a lot. So in that process, I gained about 10 kilos or 22 pounds, which for me being short is a big proportion of my body weight. So I was put in the category of being overweight at that stage. On the part of weight gain, my body shape actually didn't change much just because I had more weight on. I have hips, and whenever I gain weight, the first thing that happens is my ass gets huge. Honestly, if I gain 2 kilos, I get an invite in the mail to be in the Kardashians' Christmas postcard. That's it immediately. Then again, I've never been like overweight or obese for my entire life, so I don't know the struggles that come associated with that. What I took from that experience and what I mostly observe is that when you are overweight, you do not tend to compare yourself or trying to achieve a specific body type that's very specific to being skinny, because you're so far away from that goal. Someone who's a size 16 is not going to try and obsess over trying to look like a size 0 because there's 16 dress sizes in between. It's just a really far-reaching goal. So it's normally people who are already quite thin, or at least normal weight, that tend to be sucked into these obsessions, trying to fit into a specific body type, because it's easier to reach that goal because you're already close to it. So all in all, I just wanted to come here, chat a little bit about this, and share my story and how it helped me understand that your body type is not as plastic as TikTok trends make it seem. In reality, for your body as a whole, there's only so much you can do to change it. And accepting that there's things that you can't change actually is what helped me stop being concerned about these insecurities. Because now to me, when I see things like idolizing a model or someone else for that matter and saying, oh, I'm going to try their diet or their exercise or whatever it is to look like them, the majority of it is not within my control. I'm never going to look like them. And for most people, that is the case. Yeah, you can eat what Bella Hadid eats in a day, and you can work out like she does, but ultimately, if your bone structure, if your body doesn't look like hers, then you can do all of that, but you'll never look like Bella Hadid. This is a bit harsh to hear, I think, when people are idolizing other people, other celebrities, other personalities, but actually, like, who said that looking like Bella Hadid or anyone on this planet is the ultimate goal? That's the only way that's acceptable to look. Imagine how boring it would be if everyone in the world looked like Bella Hadid. Then her look wouldn't be as special, right? Because it wouldn't be unique. And you know who else looks unique? You and me, because no one looks like us. So maybe just trying to look the best version of ourselves for ourselves is the true answer, because I can actually look like me, you know? So that's something I can try to work for. Anyway, just trying to end on a positive note. I know these things are not easy. Realizing these things doesn't mean I don't still struggle with my, I don't know, appearance insecurities from time to time. It's only natural. I mean, there's always new things they're going to try to make you feel insecure about. But if this video even helps one single person feel a little better today, then I think I have accomplished my mission. And for today, that's it. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a very happy week ahead, and I'll see you next time. Bye.